In today's show, we're going to build a PowerApps countdown timer. So the idea here was I wanted an intro when I do my live sessions, things like that, that count down to the show starting. And I started to build that in another platform. I was like, wait a minute, why would I build this in PowerApps? So we're going to use this to teach you guys some different things. This would be handy whether you want to do countdowns into an event, or maybe have like a kiosk or some type of display signage that you want to rotate, banners, things like that. All of those ideas should be covered with this video. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911. Those guys. And today, we're going to build a countdown timer in our PowerApps. And so the idea here is this can give us a chance to work with timer control, but we're going to make everything very dynamic. So I want it to be able to kind of switch screens, count down from a set time, modify that time, modify what's there. Like I want to build a very robust app that you guys might use for digital signage. You might use in a kiosk. You might use as just a countdown into your own live events, but kind of get the brain going on how some of these things work. And there's really just one neat little formula I kind of came up with. The rest of it's just normal little tweaks here and there. So nothing too crazy. Let's just switch over to my desktop, show you this thing so you understand what the heck I'm talking about. All right, so here is my fun little app that counts down from 10 minutes. I'm gonna hit the play button, get a snappy little tune going with it, right? And then what's gonna happen is every 30 seconds, it's automatically gonna switch screens. But instead of making you sit here and watch for 30 seconds, I'm gonna hit my little settings button over here in the bottom right. It pops up a menu. I'm gonna pause the music, because let's face it, you didn't want to listen to music the whole time. It's fun, but not that fun. And then right here, we'll let the timer go since I've talked too much. We'll let the timer roll over, and then I'll show you how to advance it manually. So 32, 31, 30, ta-da, there's Chewy. So every 30 seconds it's going to go. If I hit this is going to jump 30 seconds in time for us. Boom. So you can see, not only am I changing the image, I'm changing the color of the text and the position of the text, because every one of these pictures to me, kind of had a different place. And this one I kind of went back and forth on, but whatever. Colors of the image is not important. Last one here, some spooky dogs. Woohoo! It's almost Halloween. So now that it's done, there you go. It returns back to the original. Kind of neat, right? I can also go ahead and just hit stop here. And when I do stop, I went ahead and show all the different controls that are here, so you can kind of see those, because we're going to need those in a second. And vice versa, when I hit play, you'll notice that when you start it, it just kind of goes back to everything's all over again. So we have some different options, all right? Oh, and the music started again. So let's hit the little thing, let's say stop, and let's take a look at this app. So the app is actually pretty straightforward here. You can see that I didn't, there's not a lot of complexity here. I'm not switching screens every time. What we're going to do is really everything is based off of our little friend, the timer here. And so this timer is set to run, let's start with duration, for 30 seconds, right? Remember, these are milliseconds, so 30,000 is 30 seconds. So every 30,000 milliseconds, it is going to end. And so on timer end, right here, this is where I've got some logic. And so the key one here is set var counter to var counter +1. Because what I want to know is how many times it has ran. Because we're going to use that to control what we see, what's going on with the different images and stuff. So every time it ends, it auto restarts, but it increments the counter to 1. And then if the counter equals the input text, see this down here, this little 10. So this is how it knows it would be 10 minutes. So 10 times 2, so 20. So if our counter got to 20, right? So because that's 10 minutes, and there's 20, 30-second increments in 10 minutes. Hopefully that makes sense. If it's done, then automatically stop things. So select the stop button, and then navigate over to the last little screen here that shows my pretty face, because in theory one of my training sessions is about to start. So other things on the timer that we configured, I think there's only 2 others. There is a repeat, so you want that to be true, because I need it, remember, every 30 seconds I need it to start over again. And then there is also a start property, and so the start property is tied to a variable called vargo. Vargo sounds very French. Yes, vargo. Yeah. That was terrible, wasn't it? You don't care. Anyway, vargo is a Boolean variable, true or false, and so by toggling it from false to true, that's what causes the timer to start. Okay, So that's the timer. The timer is kind of the engine of this whole thing, right? Timer churning over every 30 seconds and incrementing a variable. That's the engine. Everything else is just going to react to that engine. Probably the most, let's just go show you the most clever one, right? This is like the pinnacle. The video's all downhill after this one. But so my timer here, you're going to see the text. This is where I had to put my math brain in for a couple minutes, right? So I'm like, hey, if var counter equals input times 2, then show times up. But it doesn't actually show times up because it now navigates to the screen. But if it did stay on the screen, times up would show. If not, this is what you're after. So this is how I am starting at 10 and counting down. So I'm automatically deriving the time of today and then 12 timer for the minutes portion, 0, 0. So this is setting the date time object to 12:10. I guess it's technically AM, but that doesn't matter at all. Because what we want to do is once we got that 12:10, right? So this is dynamic. Look at that, spitting out 10:15 on 12:10. Oh, it's PM. I guessed wrong. Oh well, I'll live. Yeah, I guess 0, 0 would have been the other one. It doesn't matter. The hour portion doesn't matter. We're only using the minute portion. So we're going to count down from that number by using date add, and then we're doing a negative, right? So we're subtracting from 12:10. And we're taking the current timer's value plus var counter times 30,000, right? Because remember, milliseconds. So the first time through, it's 1 times 30,000, which is add 30 seconds. So if the timer is currently at 5, 30 plus 5 would be 35 seconds. It would be subtracting. So we'd see 925. Okay. And then I'm just taking all of that and I'm having to divide that, okay, that'd be 95,000 seconds, or no, that'd be 35,000 milliseconds. So I'm just cutting that down to seconds. So I'm dividing by 1,000 to go from milliseconds to seconds. And just using the text function here to do the output is MMSS, which is why you see 10:00. So the timer decreasing, right, because it only decreases down to 30 seconds, but because it's milliseconds, we have to have 1,000 in there. But so every time it repeats, we increment that counter because we're going to just add 30 seconds. If the counter's 5, we would add, oh my goodness, 150 seconds plus the current timer's value would be what we're subtracting from our friend 10 minutes in this case. And if we change this number down here from 10 to 25, right, because my users configure it, you can see it updated that fast because now my date time object up here just became 12:25 p.m. and so we're just counting down from that. And the text function, right, all it's really doing is stripping out the 12 portion so I can just show the minutes and the seconds. But yeah, so if we hit play again just to show that this all goes, like if I just manually start the timer by clicking on it here, so I didn't start any of the other functionality, but you can just see that by the timer going down, right, as the timer goes down, this automatically goes down. So they're all tied together. We're just hiding the timer. When we use this play button over here, remember that's starting the timer. And by that starting the timer, it is also setting the visible property of both of these to false. So then that way we don't see them. Okay. The other fun thing about this text box, right? So that's that. The other things are the color. So the color is actually set from a collection. So I have a collection called Col Screens. And I'm saying get the row of mod var counter number of screens. All right, so maybe let's go over here real quick and look at the collection and that variable before we explain how this formula works. So if we go to app on start, when the app starts, we create a collection called Col Screens. It has some words, which I'm not actually using this column yet, but I want to get this out here because I felt like I was going to use it at some point. So I put this here for future use, but it's not being used right now. The image column is just the literal image file that I uploaded. So like if we looked at my media, you'd see that I've uploaded Suspension Bridge, Chewy Running, Chewy Toys, Roger and Simona right there, and Halloween right there. So this is the image column is storing the actual image object that I've already uploaded. And then the rows need to start at 0. And I'll explain that in a second, but the rows start at 0, then they just increment 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 rows right now. Text color, that's whether or not that text is going to be white or black or any color you want. I think there's an orange red. Yeah, orange red. So whatever color I want the text to be when this image is being shown. and then the X and the Y properties of what I want to be shown. So that's why when we're running this, and we go to this image, we see this, but if I go to the next image, this is why I added a little skipper, right? So the X and the Y changed and font color changed. And I go to this one, but all of this data is coming out of the collection all the time. So it's not like I am, I don't have a bunch of ifs. I just stored all the data in the collection. And so when we look at the text object for the color, it is fetching the current row that it's on, and then it's just using the text color property. If we look at the X, whatever it is doing the lookup and getting the X property. As you can guess, the Y, the same thing. And then ultimately the screen itself, so countdown, the screen has a background image property. And so that is doing why it's showing you the different images. Okay. Now, the only part of this you might not understand is this one right here. Mod is one of my favorite functions because it's so mathy and nerdy. All math rules the world. No, all mod, M-O-D, does is it takes a number, so in our case var counter, and divides it by another number, var number of screens, which is 5, and it gives you the remainder. So it says, all right, if var counter was 10 and then var number of screens was 5, that would evenly go in there too, and there'd be a remainder of 0. So if there's a remainder of 0, we show row 0, which is the picture of the bridge. If var counter is 12 and the var number of screens is 5, 5 goes evenly into there so many times, right? We don't know the number, we just know it goes in there evenly so many times with a remainder of 2, right? Because 5 times 2 is 10. 10 subtracted from 12 is 2. So the remainder is 2. So that would show row number 2 from our data set, which would be the toys, which is one we're on. Hey, good guess, me. Okay, so that is how all the functionality is working, is we're fetching overall how many of objects do we have, what is the var counter's variable currently out, and that's why it just keeps repeating. I didn't have to write looping logic or anything like that. I'm just using a little simple math principle to dynamically get the number. But that's also why we had to start at row 0, because when 5 went into 10 evenly, right, the remainder, the mod, was 0, so I needed to have a 0 row. Okay? And so the other neat thing about this is if I want to add an image, right, I'm just going to grab this, I'm going to copy this row. Right? I tried to make this as flexible as possible. Boom, boom, paste this in. And so we'll go over here. Let's add a new piece of media real quick. So media, upload. Before we started, I downloaded this thing of corgis. I don't know why. So I downloaded the corgis. There they go. They're uploaded in my app. And so then now I'll just change this to pups. And then for the image column, we'll change that to be Welsh corgis. And then the row, I have to manually increment this to 5. And then for the moment, I'm guessing that we'll leave the text color. Let's change this text color to, based on that blue, let's try green. I don't know, green yellow. Oh yeah, I like that color. And then we'll leave the X and the Y where it's at for a moment. So if I do this, I added the collection, var number of screens just automatically calculates. So I don't have to go change that variable. So now I can say, hey, oh, nope. Let's go up here. Let's run on start again. Let's hit stop. Let's hit play. That should reset everything back to 0. Then we'll go here. We'll pause the music. We will then just chip through. Right, there's Chewy. There's the toys. There's Simona and Roger. There's the Boo Dogs. And there's our corgis. Yay! And so if I don't like where this is at, right, then I would just go change the X, the Y coordinates for that row, right? So I could be like, oh, you know what? That doesn't look good there. I actually think that one, this would look better if it was in the top left corner. So we'll just change it to 0, 0, 0. And just as fast as we change it, it should, oh, we rerun app on start. And so now it's over here, right? So I've moved it. Ugh. And then I had to pause to cough. Sorry. But so having everything dynamic here, I can just modify as we go. So there you go. This should hopefully get your guys' brains running. If we look down here at the play button, we're going to see that on select, it kind of resets everything. It sets the var counter variable back to 0. It resets audio 1. So audio 1 is what's playing that nice little tune behind the scenes. Set var go to false. Set var music to false. Set var go to true. Set var music to true. Remember that those variables that you want to start a control, like the timer or the audio control, they have to go from false to true. If they're already true and then you just make them true again, it won't start the timer. So you always want to set those back to false and then flip them right back to true. And that false to true is what will actually cause the timer to start. And then set var show buttons, which is what is making these 4 objects visible, is false as well. These 4, right, because Microsoft didn't have any cute icons for this stuff, I went ahead and just went to actually Pixabay and got some images and kind of made these little buttons myself. So these are all just image controls. So nothing too exciting there, but they're image controls with the onSelect property. So the pause button here, which I probably should have made the mute button instead of pause, I now realize in hindsight, oops. The pause button here on select for it just sets var music to not var music, right? Because what I did, if like we start playing and I show it, so press this, it set it off to, right, so it toggled it to false, but if I press it again, it toggles it back to true. You'll also notice here, like I struggled with these, so when I mouse over any of these 4, notice that they go gray. I wanted a little bit of a texture feel to the screen, so that was how I got that. But then what I also did was when I press the pause button, if I hold it, you can see that it turns yellow. Or if I press the green one, it turns green. So I don't know if that was the right way. I probably shouldn't have pressed that one. I don't know if that was the right way to do it, but that gave me a little bit of that visual feedback that I was hovering over a button that was clickable and that it was clickable. So that was what I came up with because I was using images, so I didn't have the way to get that 3D effect that I really would like. Other thing, I guess a couple more buttons here. So this one, all it does, button next, on start, on select, it sets var counter to var counter +1. It also reminds me, I didn't tell you guys earlier, just a reminder that, you know, if you want this, download this whole working app, you can totally do that, right? Just go to training.powerapps911.com, sign up for our YouTube video library, and you can download this and dozens of other apps that I've built ahead of time so you can actually use them in your environment. So you don't have to go remember all this stuff. You can just download the working app. All right, so that's on select. And then here for button stop, as you can probably guess, it is going to stop everything, right? On select is hard to find. So it sets var go to false, and then it sets var music to false. So it just stops both of those. And then the timer and such, right? So like the timer's visible property and the audio visual properties are just, if var go is true, the opposite of true, right? The not is false. So when it's not running, don't show, or when it's not running, show it. When it's running, don't show it. So that was kind of how I kept those. And honestly, I would just set these to permanently not visible, so visible is false all the time once I wasn't building this app for you and me to kind of walk through together. So both of these are configured the same way. Audio control also is set here to, they call it loop instead of repeat here. I don't know why, but loop is true. That's why, even though it's only a 2 minute and 30 second tune, it will play over and over and over and over until you're sick of hearing it. So, this little guy, this is also an image, and so all he does on select is toggles the variable var show buttons from true to false or false to true. So that's it, guys. That is my countdown timer app. Other ways you might use this, maybe you want to use this for like display signage, right? Because you don't have to have an end. You could just have it loop permanently. So if you just want to have it running, I'm planning on hopefully adding like some movie trivia style questions or something to the screen so my students are watching before classes start. So I have a class coming up in a couple of weeks, like the last week of October. You guys should sign up for that. But anyway, when they're watching that, hopefully there'll be like some fun little teaser questions or fun chewy facts or something. I don't know. I haven't gotten that creative. That's what I'm thinking about doing there. And then what else did I want to? There was like one more thing. Oh, and then the other thing I thought about was if you were going to put this like on a kiosk. So I know some of you have asked about, you know, something like this for like a kiosk type of signage. What I thought about was you could use my password video to make it so that if you clicked on this icon, it prompted you for a password before it showed the bar for play and stop and things like that. So I thought that'd be a nice little addition to it. If you're going to put this in a public place where you're worried about somebody just going up and stopping it themselves, you could pretty easily add that. Nothing going to stop them from closing the browser, but at least, it could give you kind of another layer of making it more difficult on them. So, all right. Well, I think that's everything for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you all rush out and subscribe so you can just download this working app. I thought it was a pretty fun little app, and it's like literally I sat down to figure out how to build this in Camtasia, and I was like, why am I doing this in Camtasia? I should be able to do this in PowerApps. And so I had to go solve the formulas. Right? I had to go figure it out myself, but it was kind of a fun mental exercise, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. Yeah, and I guess with all that, I'm just going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem is big or small, check us out at PowerApps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.